Hi everyone, it's John. Welcome back to my channel. It's January 7th, 2023, and I thought it is the first weekend of the new year. So instead of doing Friday reads yesterday, I got a little preoccupied, so I thought I would do a Saturday reads instead. I have a few books here to show you, and some of them are actually related to the ongoing 2023 event called Historathon 2023, which urges people to read more history throughout the year. I'm going to start with the books that are more history related, especially the one that is both history related and era appropriate. January through March, we're reading anything from prehistory all the way up through 500 AD. And the one that fits the best there is this. It is The Lessons of History by Will and Ariel Durant. You probably know Will and Ariel Durant for their 11-volume History of Civilization, or The Story of Civilization. I forgot the exact title. But towards the end, they decided to, I want to say maybe between the 11th and 12th volume of that series, they decided to write a little short book, 100 pages, of lessons that they had distilled from writing, 8,000, 10,000 pages of history. And I guess I've only read about a third of it so far, but the takeaway here is I think this was published in 1968. So it is 45 years old. And if I'm not mistaken, the Durants were born in either the late 19th or very, very early 20th century. It is very much a product of the people who wrote it. That's about the kindest way I can put it. There are some very sketchy historical assumptions and some, well, I'll let the reader draw their own conclusions if they decide to pick it up. And I'll go into more detail when I review it in full. But they basically say that there were no major important civilizations in Africa. That's... I know the Durants knew about the Mali Empire and other important African civilizations, but you have to wonder why they didn't think it was important. And I could fathom a reason, but, So, I'll finish it. It's not too big of a time investment, but I wish it was, I guess, well, I'll go into a review when I'm done. Secondly, some of you might know, especially if you're poetry readers, about the name of Anne Carson. This is her relatively short book-length essay. It's about 180 pages, called Eros the Bittersweet. And it is an analysis of Sappho's idea of the glucupacron, which is her word for the double-edged nature of love. That is its sweetness, its lightness, its desirousness, but also the bitterness, the tragedy, the heartbreak that it can cause. Sappho's word for it is glucupacron, and this is just a long essay where she talks about that double-sided nature of love. Carson was classically trained as a philologist. She has a PhD in the classics. And the reason why I'm showing this, not so much that it discusses history in the strict narrative sense, but it talks a lot about Greek philology, Greek words. It looks at a lot of Greek etymology, and just, if I just show you a random page, just opened up to a completely random page here. You can see she quotes right here, just Greek text. Of course, she provides you her original translations there, but because she's a classicist, it's a close reading, and it's, let me get the exact list that it made for you. It made the 1999 Modern Library Readers List for the 100 best nonfiction books written in the 20th century. This came out in 1986 when Anne Carson was 35 or 36 years old. And sort of took the classics world by storm, sort of really impressed poets too. It impressed a lot of people. So I thought that I would... mirror images are such a pain. It's part of the Princeton Legacy Library. I asked them for a copy, and I also promised them a review. So that's the reason why I want to read that, so I can get my thoughts out about it before the end of the month. And for something else that is completely appropriate, I thought this would be my first sort of sizable historathon reading of it. Ironically, it's not one of the books I showed in my pile of possibilities, but that's what mood reading does for you. This is Cleopatra: A Life by Stacy Schiff. So I've heard a lot of good things. In fact, I just got off of a Discord conversation with Mark. We now have a Discord server for Historathon 2023, and Mark said this was very, very good. So, of course, not breaking new ground. I wouldn't expect it to, but I'm just looking for something relatively short and relatively popular. So, in the slim chance that work starts up in the next week or so, I will be able to finish it, pick it back up and finish it without too much trouble. I think I've already shown this on a Friday or Weekend Reads video before. This is The Origin of Capitalism, a longer view by Ellen Meiksons Wood. And when I first showed it, I hadn't started it. But this is an attempt to find sort of the economic origins coming out of feudalism that give rise to capitalism. And it's only 200 pages. I'm 70 pages in, so about a third of the way through, and it is a slog. It is not just dry as dust, but it's also not very engagingly written. And, it's by an academic, so I wasn't really expecting the most riveting prose, but it's dull, and I haven't touched it for a couple of, maybe 3 or 4 months, to be honest. But I really do want to finish it so I can write a review of it, because I ultimately write a review of everything I read, and I don't like to invest time in reading something if I'm not going to finish it. So, The Origin of Capitalism. And one more book. This is a new book that just came out last year by Sergei Guriev and Daniel Treisman called Spin Dictators: The Changing Face of Tyranny in the 21st Century. And I only have about 40 more pages to go. It's a really, really fascinating thesis of the book. They basically say that the nature of dictatorship has changed in the 20th century, specifically in the last 40 or 50 years, with the arrival of increasing globalization and the transformation from a mostly industrial society to a mostly post-industrial society, that the nature and the way that dictatorship and despotism operates has also had to change because of that. Really fascinating thesis. they set up this duality in the book between what they call fear dictators, which was the old-fashioned kind of dictatorship, people like Stalin, Mao, the Kims in North Korea. And then they compare that to the new style of dictator, which they call the spin dictator, which would be like Viktor Orban, Vladimir Putin, people like that. And obviously, those two models of what dictatorship looks very different. One was sort of a brutal, dictatorial person who would dress up in camouflage and execute political prisoners in a football stadium, in front of 50,000 people. And the other ones basically tried to wear the trappings of democracy, tried to get people throughout the world to sign on to their regimes and endorse them. Censorship also looks different. It goes into all the different ways that they look different comparatively. And again, I'll talk about that in my review, which shouldn't be too long because too far in the future, because this is also from Princeton, and I also promised them a review of this before the end of the month. So be on the lookout both for that in Goodreads and here if you are interested. So that is what I will be tying up with loose ends and a couple of new books I'll be starting in the next few days. Let me know what you're reading or finishing this weekend, and I will talk to everyone later. Bye.